It was one of those early spring evenings in London when the city sighed under a soft drizzle and the air carried the scent of wet pavement and blooming daffodils. Emily hated the rain. Not because it made her cold, but because it reminded her of him. 2 years had passed since Daniel walked out of her life without a word, and yet every drop seemed to echo his goodbye. She stood by the bookstore on King Street, her coat pulled tightly around her and her bag shielding her head. People rushed by, umbrellas up, coats flapping, but she remained still anchored by memory more than water. Then she saw him. Not Daniel. Someone else. He stood on the opposite side of the street, tall, dark-haired, with an umbrella that looked far too elegant for a city drizzle. Their eyes met briefly across the traffic, and for a moment, everything paused: the cars, the rain, even her breath. The man noticed her struggling with the bag over her head, smiled faintly, and began to cross. Emily blinked, unsure what was happening. Was this really happening? He reached her in a few steps, tilted the umbrella to cover them both, and said with a soft British accent, "You look like someone who hates the rain almost as much as I do." She chuckled nervously. "It's more of a long-standing feud. I'm Lucas," he said, eyes crinkling with the kind of kindness that doesn't ask for anything in return. "Emily." And just like that, the rain didn't feel quite so heavy anymore. The umbrella walk didn't last long. They ended up at a small cafe tucked behind the old theatre, a place Emily had passed 1,000 times but never entered. It had frosted windows, soft as inside. And the kind of lighting that made you forget time existed. Lucas ordered black coffee. No sugar. Emily asked for mint tea, her comfort drink. There was silence between them, but not the awkward kind. It was the silence of two people curious about each other, trying to listen beyond words. "So," Lucas said, "what brings you out in the rain with nothing but a handbag as armor?" Emily hesitated, fingers tightening around the warm cup. "Old memories. I visit that bookstore every year. It's where I met someone I thought would stay." Lucas nodded slowly. He didn't press her. That made her talk more. "Daniel," she said, "we met in the poetry aisle. He quoted Neruda." I laughed. "We had 3 years that felt like 100, and then one day he just disappeared." Lucas looked at her. Genuinely, he didn't give a reason, no note, no fight, no call, just a silence. There was a flicker in his eyes then, something he was about to say but held back. He just replied, "That kind of silence is a form of violence, you know." "It's not fair. I used to think I wasn't enough," she admitted. "And now?" he asked gently. "Now I think I was too much in the wrong direction for someone who wasn't ready to grow." He smiled. "That's wiser than most people I know." She tilted her head, amused. "So what about you? What's your story, Lucas?" he sighed. "I came back from New York last month. I was supposed to get married there, but she called it off. Said I was present, but never fully here." Maybe she was right. "You seem very here right now. Maybe I needed the rain," he said. "And someone to share it with." The conversation drifted after that from favorite books to music they both secretly liked, turns out. Both had a soft spot for 80s ballads. Emily noticed how he listened, not the kind of listening where someone waits for their turn to speak, but the kind where they genuinely want to know you. Time melted. The rain had stopped hours ago. But neither noticed. By the time they looked out the window, the streets glistened, empty and calm. Lucas checked his watch and laughed. "I think we just had a 6-hour first conversation." Emily laughed too. "That's either really good or really weird. Let's go with good," he said, standing up. "Walk you home." She hesitated for a second. It had been so long since someone asked to walk her home with no strings. She nodded. They walked side by side, hands brushing now and then, the night cool and forgiving. When they reached her apartment, Emily turned to him. "Thank you for today." For not making it feel like a wound, Lucas looked at her with something soft in his gaze. "Thank you for letting a stranger share your rain," he paused. "Would you let me do it again sometime?" Emily smiled. "Only if you promise to bring the same umbrella." He grinned. "Deal," as she entered her apartment, closing the door gently behind her. Emily leaned against it and exhaled deeply. For the first time in 2 years. The silence in her home didn't feel like loneliness, it felt like the beginning of something. 3 months passed like pages in a favorite novel, slow, rich, and filled with small, beautiful things. Emily and Lucas became each other's habit. Morning coffees turned into weekend brunches. Bookstore visits and late-night walks in Hyde Park. It wasn't perfect. But it was real, comfortable in its honesty. But real love often comes with real fears. One Friday evening, as they sat in Lucas's apartment watching the city lights from his balcony, Emily found herself staring at him, his face calm, his smile so steady, and suddenly she panicked. She saw Daniel. Not in his features. Not in his voice. But in her own fear. What if Lucas disappeared too? "What are you thinking?" Lucas asked, noticing the shift in her eyes. Emily hesitated. "Do you ever feel like things are going to well?" Lucas laughed softly. "Is that bad? I'm scared," she said, almost in a whisper. He turned to her, serious now. "Of what?" "That you'll wake up one day and decide I'm not what you want. That this will turn into another silence." Lucas was quiet for a moment. Then, gently, "Emily, I'm not Daniel." She closed her eyes. "I know, but my heart still doesn't." He moved closer. "Do you want to know the truth?" She nodded. "I almost left London a week before I met you. I was packing everything. New job offer. New city. Fresh start. But something made me stay." Emily looked at him, unsure. "What was it?" "It was a stupid reason at the time," he said, smiling faintly. "I told myself I'd wait until the rain stopped. That maybe the rain had one more story for me." She blinked. "And then there you were," he said. "Soaking wet, hiding under your bag, and making the sky worth waiting under." Tears welled in her eyes, not from pain, but from the overwhelming relief of being seen. "But I need you to know," he continued, "that love doesn't mean never being afraid. It means choosing each other despite the fear." Every day, Emily reached for his hand, fingers trembling. "I don't know how to unlearn the fear." "Then don't," he said. "Just let me stand with you in it." A week later, the skies opened up again. This time, they didn't run from the rain. They stood beneath it, no umbrella, no bag overhead. Just two people, eyes locked, drenched in memory and hope. Emily leaned into Lucas's chest, heart thudding. "I never thought I'd feel safe in the rain again," she whispered. Lucas kissed her forehead. "Then let's stay here, until you do." And so they stayed, not because the rain had stopped hurting, but because this time they weren't alone beneath it. The end.